The world looks east. Xi Jinping is once again manufacturing the illusion of the East rising, the West declining. This is Jersey's news commentary channel. Recently, the People's Daily published a grand, high-toned political commentary titled The Story Behind the World Looking East. The article argues that the frequent visits of world leaders to China demonstrate that Chinese-style modernization is generating a powerful appeal, even becoming a new global trend, with the world actively embracing China. It sounds magnificent, almost as if the East is rising and the West is declining all over again. The article interprets these diplomatic interactions as evidence of the appeal of China's development model. Such deliberately distorted propaganda, so detached from reality, is a well-worn rhetorical tactic that the Chinese Communist Party has used for 100 years. In truth, this interpretation reveals, at its core, an attempt to conceal anxiety over domestic economic difficulties, and reflects unease and insecurity in the face of containment pressures from the United States, Europe, and Japan. It is like a person who lacks inner confidence but is full of vanity. When distinguished guests visit, he loudly proclaims to the world, "Look, all these important people have come to see me, they all need me." This is nothing more than an exaggerated version of accused spiritual victory method. If we break down these visits one by one, we find that it is not the world turning toward China. Rather, it is that political leaders, driven by their own domestic pressures, by short-term political thinking, and by a general ignorance of China's actual conditions, each with their own motives, are eager to strike deals with China to showcase political achievements. This reflects a kind of political opportunism. In recent times, several Western leaders have indeed visited China, including UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, French President Emmanuel Macron, and Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez. There is also the upcoming visit of Donald Trump. The lineup is indeed notable. Yet despite differing motivations, they share one common goal: to persuade China to purchase their goods, to extract tangible economic benefits. In my view, there are two main driving forces behind this wave of visits. First, ignorance. Many of these leaders fundamentally do not understand China's current economic reality. They still see China as a towering tree, rushing in to promote their exports unaware that this tree is already withering. Second, widespread aversion to Trump. Faced with uncertainties surrounding Trump, they turn to China as a backup option. This short-term adjustment may appear rational, but in the long run it is not. It lacks strategic vision and contradicts the West's own value-based and rule-based frameworks. After all, how long will Trump remain in power? Their willingness to act as sales representatives for their own national industries is largely driven by political cycles, which inevitably leads to short-term decision-making. They seek quick results, immediate investment, visible orders. Looking at Western leaders over the past decades, most lack strategic vision. The world sees politicians but few true statesmen. To piece together these visits by strategically short-sighted politicians into a narrative of global recognition of China, or a new international trend, is a distortion of reality, pure wishful thinking. If a major power were not deeply anxious and insecure, why would it produce such absurd interpretations? Take Chancellor Merz's visit. It stems from anxiety over the sharp decline of German industry in the Chinese market. German car sales and profits in China have been cut in half. Yet Merz imagines that one visit could reverse this decline. This reveals his ignorance of how deeply troubled China's economy has become. His visit is like carving a mark on a boat to find a lost sword. What does this have to do with China's so-called appeal? President Macron's visit is likewise driven by orders. He brought a large business delegation, mainly to sell Airbus aircraft and luxury goods. For the sake of political optics, Xi Jinping ignored China's overcapacity in aviation and the sharp contraction in air transport, and still ordered Airbus planes partly as a signal to the US. The world does not only have Boeing, it also has Airbus. Is Macron really concerned with the China model? Prime Minister Sanchez's visit reflects desperation. Spain faces weak economic growth and urgently needs external markets, capital, and orders. Due to ignorance of China's reality, he too imagines China as a towering tree, unaware that under Xi's leadership, this tree is already near collapse. Is he there to admire an innovation hub? As for Trump's upcoming visit, he is likely seeking to offset scandals such as the Epstein case and to maneuver out of geopolitical entanglements. A profit-driven politician prone to exaggeration, is he really looking east? Let us now respond to this looking east narrative with China's economic reality. First, the real estate market. Since 2022, it has been declining at an average rate of 15% annually. In 2021, Chinese experts estimated the total market value at 450 trillion renminbi. At that rate, about 67.5 trillion renminbi in wealth evaporates each year. Second, employment. Official data suggests the stable unemployment rate of around 5% for decades, so stable it defies belief. In reality, nearly 300 million people are in flexible employment, about 40% of the urban workforce. By official definition, working just 1 hour per week counts as employment. The employment rate for college graduates is below 15%. This explains why repeated policy stimulus has failed to revive consumption. Is this what People's Daily calls thriving? Third, appeal. Does China truly have global appeal? A genuinely appealing model must be replicable, sustainable, and verifiable. China's model relies on state control, opaque systems, one-man rule, and rule by man rather than rule of law. To developed Western nations, this is almost a joke. Many developing countries engage with China primarily because of massive financial inducements. Over the past decade, Xi has poured trillions of RMB into Belt and Road countries' funds that could have financed healthcare and social security for over 1 billion people. Is this what People's Daily calls helping others while helping oneself? It is essentially buying support. Once the money stops, so do the friends. If a country truly has appeal, capital will flow in continuously. Yet the reality is, foreign direct investment dropped from $253.1 billion in 2020 to $107 billion in 2025. And declined another 5.7% in early 2026. Capital is voting with its feet. Foreign companies are diversifying supply chains to Southeast Asia. Manufacturing is shifting out. U.S. firms have withdrawn by about 50%, Japanese firms by as much as 70%. Even French companies are leaving. German firms remain more due to heavy sunk costs. These facts stand in direct contrast to official narratives. Is this what is called China's attractiveness? Fourth, global order. People's Daily claims that the world looking east reflects China's shaping of global order. But shaping global order requires exporting institutions, rules, and widely accepted norms. What exactly has China exported? Yes, China has alliances with Russia, Iran, North Korea, Hamas, and the Houthis. It is at the center of this axis, providing funding, support, and strategic direction. Is this the global order being referred to? This is precisely why advanced technologies such as high-end chips face U.S. restrictions and sanctions, and why Europe and Japan maintain strategic distance. Around 2010, Xi Jinping frequently promoted the idea of the East rising and the West declining. Ironically, after the pandemic shock, real estate collapse, capital outflows, and technological restrictions, this once-in-a-century transformation has failed to materialize. The concept has shifted from a strategic judgment to a shattered illusion. So where is China shaping global order? In essence, the world looking east is merely a variation of the East rising, the West declining, an extension of Xi's strategic imagination. The reason it is no longer openly emphasized is simple: reality has repeatedly contradicted it. Yet whenever there is the slightest sign of opportunity, this narrative resurfaces. Recent visits by Western leaders have reignited this excitement, leading to renewed grandiose claims that the world is looking east. When all facts are considered, the conclusion is simple: it is not the world looking east, it is reality looking toward interests. Visits do not equal recognition. Engagement does not equal trust. Transactions do not equal alignment. Western leaders visit China for interests. China amplifies these visits for political needs. The world looking east is a recycled narrative. Who believes it? The real logic of the world is not who is more confident, but who creates more value. What we are seeing is not a shift in global alignment, but an overinterpretation of external engagement and an internal attempt at reassurance. Is this confidence or anxiety? A truly confident nation does not need to constantly prove itself. When a regime repeatedly claims that others are following, it often signals rising internal uncertainty. In other words, this is not confidence, it is the projection of insecurity.